Can you hear me in the meeting room?
Yes, we can, Andy. We're just on mute until a couple others get here in person.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. We're on.
Welcome to the Smithfield Township Board of Supervisors regular meeting, November 10th, 2020, 7 p.m. We're calling the meeting to order. Those present are the two of us, Jacob Pride, Robert Lovenheim, and staff here. So let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance, my favorite.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have three sets of minutes to approve. October 27th, 2020 regular meeting, October 28th, 2020 budget work meeting. What's that?
I did not.
2020 budget work session. And I have a motion to approve all of them at once.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of the three sets of minutes as presented.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Public comments on the agenda? No public comments. Okay, I've got notes here. Julie, do you want me to read those notes or not?
Yes.
Yes?
You need to, yes.
All right. An executive, these are bringing you up to date. Executive session was held on October 29th, 2020, from 11:34 to 11:38 a.m. to discuss purchasing 274 Marshalls Creek Road property. That's in connection with the proposed Marshalls Falls Park. An executive session was held on November 4th, 2020, from 12:13 p.m. to 1:03 p.m. to discuss personnel salaries. Let's move on to the public hearings. We have a public hearing where it's on the Verizon Wireless Conditional Use Construction of Monopole Wireless Communication Tower in Steep Slopes.
If I may, Mr. Chair, I want to just note for the record that there will be three exhibits introduced on behalf of the township in this matter, and they are Board Exhibit number 1, which is the advertisement in the Pocono Record of the conditional use hearing that was advertised once a week for 2 weeks on 10/26 and 11/2. Board Exhibit number 2 is a copy of the actual advertising notice that was posted on the properties. And Board Exhibit number 3 is the affidavit of posting, where Mr. Wolf, as the Township Zoning Officer, indicates that he posted the property on October 27, 2020. I've shared these exhibits with counsel for the applicant, and I move those exhibits into the record. Are there any objections, counsel? No objection. All right. And although I have prepared the usual customary remarks, I see there's no one here in the audience at all other than counsel and the board, which have heard me talk ad nauseum before, so I'm not going to go through those introductory remarks. I'm going to just ask counsel to begin his presentation on the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, gentlemen. Attorney Richard Williams on behalf of the applicant, Verizon Wireless, here this evening.
May I ask something, Rich? Since we're here and they can't see you, do you want to just come up here and we'll make a little room for you?
It's up to you. If it's easier for you, that's very fine.
Well, at least anybody watching or for the record, they can see who you are rather than a disconnected voice.
You want to put him here?
Jacob, why don't you move over here a little and I'll move to get some more.
And I'll move the chair over a little bit.
Great.
Great, thank you. Again, Richard Williams for Verizon Wireless. Verizon Wireless is here this evening seeking conditional use approval from Section 401.3 of the ordinance, which relates to steep slopes. The ordinance essentially requires conditional use approval anytime slopes in excess, or very steep slopes in excess of 25% are being disturbed. In the present case, Verizon Wireless is disturbing those slopes. Verizon would be disturbing 627 square feet, which essentially amounts to 3.39% of the steep slope area. The ordinance permits up to 10%. We're at 3.39%, so we're below that. But nevertheless, we're still required to present the application to the board for conditional use approval. Andy Miller is available by Zoom. Unfortunately, he was caught in traffic today, so he's available by Zoom. And if there are no objections, I'd move right along and have Andy sworn in and to be called as our first witness.
And raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And what I've done, as usual, I've placed the exhibits in a booklet. There are only 4 of them here this evening, so I'll just hand those out if you want to pass those down.
Off the record, you want this marked as applicants exhibits A through 4?
Yeah, we're going to say applicants 1 through 4, yeah.
All right, do you want them marked, though, or are you going to just use that?
I mean, they're pre-marked.
So they're pre-marked. You see, they're on the side.
Oh, okay.
They're pre-marked on the side, yeah.
Okay.
Now, Andy, could you please state your name for the record, please?
Yes, good evening. First, I appreciate you allowing me to participate via Zoom. There was a major accident near our house, and it took me an hour and a half to go 5 miles. So I didn't want to delay the meeting by being late, so I appreciate you allowing me to participate this way. So good evening, Andrew Miller with Ritu Associates, business address 3020 Columbia Avenue, Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
And Andy, what is your professional background?
I have a bachelor's degree in civil engineering, an associate's degree in land surveying, and I've been appearing before zoning matters, land development, ENS, conditional use, etc., for the last 16 years.
And you previously appeared before the board with respect to the present application?
Yes, I have.
And are you familiar with the conditional use application submitted by Verizon Wireless in this matter?
Yes, I am.
Okay, if you could look at what's been marked as applicant's exhibit number 1, I ask if you could identify that, please.
Yes, that's a copy of the application for conditional use.
And subsequent to the original submission on July 29th, 2020, did Verizon Wireless modify the plans that were submitted to the township?
Yes, they did.
And was that a result of various engineering reviews?
Yes, that was a result of engineering review by the township's engineer, Mr. Trussler.
Okay. And if you could look at the document we marked for identification as applicant's exhibit number 2, I ask if you could identify that, please.
Yes, that's a copy of the plans that our office prepared.
And just briefly for the board, could you explain what changed in the plans between the original submission and the plans marked as applicant's exhibit number 2?
Yes, those were just amending some of the acreages and disturbance percentages on the steep slope table that is on the plans.
And do the plans adequately reflect what is proposed for the site now, applicant's exhibit number 2?
Yes, they do.
And now, did the township engineer ever review the plans?
Yes, he did.
And if you could look at what's been marked as applicant's exhibit number 3, I ask if you can identify that, please.
Yes, that's a copy of the review letter from Mr. Trussler.
Okay. And finally, did Verizon Wireless prepare a new pre-hearing statement as requested by Mr. Trussler to essentially clarify and correct the references to the disturbance areas in the statement?
Yes, they did.
And if you could look at what we marked for identification as applicant's exhibit number 4, I'd ask if you can identify that, please.
Yes, that's a revised copy of the pre-hearing statement.
Now, Andy, where, just briefly for the board, if you could reacquaint them, where's the property that's the subject of the application?
Sure, the property is located at 119 Airport Road. It is located on the west side of Airport Road, north of the Airport Road, Milford Road intersection in the township's M1 zoning district.
Okay. And just briefly again, what is Verizon Wireless proposing for the site?
Sure, Verizon Wireless is proposing at this site a monopole style tower that will have a elevation of 95 feet plus a lightning rod, which would make the overall height 100 feet. In addition to the monopole on the ground within the stone compound, they're proposing equipment, a generator, a parking area, and a backboard for the fiber and the telco demarc, as well as evergreen plantings, secure fencing, and a gravel and partially asphalt access road to the compound.
Now, the current application before the board specifically relates to steep slopes, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Now, Andy, does the ordinance regulate moderately steep slopes in any regard?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Now, with reference to the plan, could you please identify to the board the areas of the property where the moderately steep slope would be disturbed?
Yes, on the plan that was prepared, the moderately steep slopes are the green hatched areas on the plan. And the definition of a moderately steep slope is from 15% to 25% slope.
And what percentage of the property contains a moderately steep slope?
The property overall has moderately steep slopes of approximately 40,000 square feet.
Okay. And how much slope and square footage wise will be disturbed by Verizon Wireless in terms of moderately steep slope?
Sure. Verizon Wireless will be disturbing approximately 4,652 square feet of those moderately steep slopes.
So does that approximate 11.5%?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, and what is the maximum amount of disturbance permitted with respect to moderately steep slope?
Within this zoning district, it is 60%.
Okay, does the zoning ordinance also regulate the amount of very steep slope that can be disturbed on property?
Yes, it does. Very steep slopes are permitted. Those are slopes of 25% or greater, and that has an allowance of a maximum disturbance of 10%.
And what is the square footage of the very steep slope on the property, if you know?
On the overall property, it's approximately 18,457 square feet.
And how much very steep slope square footage wise would be disturbed by Verizon Wireless?
627 square feet.
Okay. And does that essentially equate to approximately 3.39%?
Yes, it does. That is correct.
And what is the maximum percentage of disturbance that the ordinance permits with respect to very steep slope?
Maximum area of disturbance is 10%.
Now, will any improvements proposed by Verizon Wireless be in the location of the moderately steep slope or the very steep slope?
Yes, it will. The improvements that we have include grading for the access drive, as well as some tree clearing, stormwater BMPs, and some landscaping.
Now, how about in terms of the tower, the equipment pad, the generator? Will any of those items be within the area disturbance of moderately steep or very steep slopes?
The tower itself will not be within those slopes, but a small corner, the southeast corner of the equipment area, will be within the disturbance area of the moderately steep slopes.
Now, how close is the area of disturbance to the base of the proposed monopole?
Approximately 30 feet.
And what impact, if any, do you see on the disturbance of the moderately steep slopes or very steep slopes on the construction of the proposed facility, including the monopole?
No negative impacts.
Would the grant of the conditional use application have any impact upon adjacent properties negatively?
No.
Would the grant of this conditional use cause any type of noise, odor, vibration, or glare, if you know?
No.
Would the grant of the application have any negative impact upon the environment or open space conservation?
No.
And finally, would the application have an adverse impact on community services such as highways, sewage facilities, water supplies, and firefighting capability?
No, it would not.
Thank you. I have no further questions of Mr. Miller.
I just have one, Andy. Can you hear me? This is Ron Karasek.
Yes, attorney, I can hear you fine. Thank you.
All right. I just want to make sure one thing. I wasn't sure. With respect to the steep slopes, I think you might have said 25% or greater, but technically it's more than 25%, correct, for this, very steep slopes?
That would be correct. If the definition in the ordinance of moderately steep is 15 to 25, then it would be 25. It would be greater than 25. The ordinance has it stated as 25% or greater, but it actually would be greater than 25%.
And I'm looking at Mr. Williams' pretrial statement, also reflects the greater than 25%. So I just want to make sure that that is clear, especially since I have to write the opinion. All right, I have no other questions. Thank you.
Any public comments on this? None? I guess we're ready for a vote.
Yeah, we would have nothing further. I just asked for introduction of the exhibits into the record.
Well, this has been a long process, and I think we've been through it thoroughly in terms of the siting and the safety aspects of it, and the fact that it's near an airport. And I don't think there's any reason to hold it up any further. Jacob, do you have any comments?
No, I don't. I would ask, though, Ron, before we would close the hearing, were there any conditions that the Planning Commission recommended in their positive recommendations?
The only planning condition the Planning Commission recommended was that the disturbance not exceed 5% in the very steep area. And in this case, the disturbance is, as you've heard testimony, 3.39%. So that was their only condition, to make sure that there wasn't a lot of very steep slope disturbance.
I think we've thoroughly explored that and answered it. Jacob, do you agree?
Yeah. If that wouldn't harm the project in any sense, is that condition,
Yeah, and it's met.
Yeah,
Right.
we have no objection to that,
Right.
that condition,
Okay.
absolutely.
Good.
Well,
All right. Well, I'll move that we close the public hearing at 7:27.
I second that. Shall we bring it to a vote?
Well, yes, I have to vote to close the hearing.
We just, okay, the hearing is closed.
Well, I vote aye to close it.
Voted aye, it was closed.
Okay.
All right, do I hear a motion to approve?
Yeah, I'll move to grant the conditional use application with the condition that the disturbance of the very steep slope does not exceed 5%.
All right, I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
Thank you very much for your time this year. I greatly appreciate it.
I'm gonna miss
you. Yeah. I know, I don't know what I'm gonna do with all my free time anymore.
No, we got a power agreement to do.
That's right, yeah.
Power agreement, like on yet to deal with, he won't be going too far, too long.
Yeah. Thanks again, we really do appreciate your time. And I hope everybody have a very nice Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you again. I appreciate you letting me join via Zoom. Thank you, gentlemen.
Absolutely, Andy. Thank you.
Andy, stay safe. We'll see you later.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Good night. Okay. Plans to act on. I don't see any. Jacob, do you have anything to add on plans to act on or not?
No, that would be like land development, so we don't have any of that tonight.
Okay. All right, let's move on to new business. We set a record tonight. I've never seen new business moving on to so many discussions and subjects that we are up to the letter P. Usually, if we go to G, we're doing very well. We're up to P today.
And I'm gonna add another one.
What? Okay.
No big deal, nothing that bad.
Wonderful. That's
Just
good.
make sure you sign the settlement agreement in the FNCB bank case.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And I will note that our chairman, Brian Barrett, who couldn't be here tonight, commented that if we go any further, we're going to have to start using the Greek alphabet after we get through the English
Like
alphabet.
they do the hurricanes, right?
Yeah. So let's move along. A is motion to approve advertising for public notice regarding CPA Services 2020 financial audit. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Okay. B, motion. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks for a short night.
Yeah, thank you.
You want
Be
me to
safe.
walk out with you, or you
No,
okay?
thank you, Ron.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay.
B, motion to ratify engaging Hanover Engineering to provide SEO services as sewer enforcement officer services for the township.
I'll let you make that motion.
Or I'll make that you let me make that motion?
Yeah, I'll let you make that one.
Okay, I'll make the motion to ratify engaging Hanover Engineering to provide SEO services for the township.
I will second it, but I do hope in the future that if we ever have to engage people, on an emergency basis, that more than one supervisor make that call. I did not like the process to do so.
That's reasonable. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carried. Discuss the proposed new ordinance number 239, amended volunteer real estate tax credit prepared by attorney at Karasak's office, and will have to be advertised.
I prepared the ordinance because I was asked to increase the maximum real estate exemption from 10% to 20%. That's the max.
Right.
However, then I spoke with Julia, and Julia said we should discuss it with the supervisors because there is a bill pending in the House that is going to terminate the maximum amount completely. In other words, we could give them 100% rebate if we would, or.
Actually, Ron, if I can step in.
Go ahead.
Governor Tax Act 91 of 2020 on October 29th.
Okay.
Which means that provision has been eliminated. So if the board wants to increase that 20% cap on our municipal real estate tax credits for emergency service providers, we can do that.
Give me that act number again there, kiddo.
Act 91 of 2020.
And it eliminated it completely?
Yes,
Eliminated the cap.
eliminated the cap
Cap
completely.
completely.
So if the board wanted to, you could feasibly go all the way up to 100%. As we had discussed in the past with this, we did have a issue last year where we gave a full blanket 10% credit on the entire bill. To keep our number steady, if you would like to do that this year, we would have to hit at least 65%.
Well, I would be in favor of tabling this so that we can discuss it, because what we're talking about in real value here is not a lot, since it's just local real estate.
Right.
And I think it would be a great service to our volunteers, and also show our appreciation if we did increase it quite a bit. But I think that's a discussion we should have. What do you think, Jacob?
I feel the same. I think especially given the hardships that our first responders are enduring right now. I know that they all have to undergo some sort of COVID training, and you know, these companies hurt, and it doesn't benefit the company itself, but it benefits the morale of the company to have people, and we owe a lot to our first responders. So I'd like to see it increase.
Yeah. I mean, personally, if it was 100%, it wouldn't bother me, but I think we should discuss it. Okay?
Sure. Do we want to table it for a week? That way we
Yeah.
can have Ron,
Let's
I mean,
table
really,
it.
we're changing one number.
I have prepared the ordinance, so I
Right.
can easily change the amount.
Right, it's just,
As long as we have enough time to advertise so that we can get it in as of 1/1/2021.
Well, we should discuss it just as far as repercussions with other people, and exactly what it's worth to people. I'd just like to know a little more.
well, if our
about it.
millage rate is .616, and you have a house that's worth $100,000, what is that, $61, and
Well, yeah, generally speaking, right now, if you are at the 20% cap, the average person, I ran the numbers quickly, I think they're getting $12 to $15.
yeah, I
And
think
that was the issue. The issue was like the amount was so small, it was almost insulting.
right, I agree. So I think that we should certainly get that number, well.
So you're in favor of tabling for a week? Is that what you're
Oh,
saying?
yeah, absolutely. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Let's table that.
We'll move to table that until, our next work session then.
All right, then we will get into it. All right, we'll move on to D, motion to approve the proposed finding of fact conclusions of law and decisions in the Young's conditional use application, construction in the floodplain. I think we've thoroughly talked about that, are very knowledgeable.
I had sent you the conclusions on November 7 on Saturday, so you would have them on your desk here for this evening to approve, and then, of course, they would need to be signed and then circulated.
So, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Done. Motion carried. Next item, motion to approve and authorize the chairman to sign the LSA Monroe Grant Contract C0000655500 Marshalls Falls Park Improvement Contract Extension Request. That's because we've had some delays in using these grants to create the park, but we are on a track now to have it open, and I would hope sometime next summer. Okay.
Absolutely.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carried. Motion to approve advertising budget and additional budget work session scheduled for Wednesday, November 18th, 2020 at 10 a.m.
I'll make that motion.
All second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Okay, motion to approve waiving the $1,500 fee for 2020, given the fact that the ESYA did not use the field at Minisink Park this season due to COVID-19.
So moved.
Okay. I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Okay, we're moving right along. Motion to ratify the withdrawal of $5,000 cash from the ESSA General Fund requested by Jacob A. Pride, Supervisor, to purchase computer equipment through the CARES Act funding. Let me just explain this. The county had asked us to make a list of the expenditures that we had because of the pandemic, and then we could get some reimbursement through the CARES Act, which we did. In fact, what you're seeing tonight, if you're looking at this, is one of the results of that. So do I hear a motion to approve? I guess I should make it, not you.
Yeah, you can.
Okay, I'm making a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Done. Okay, this is a little more interesting, or needs a little more explanation. Motion to approve an appraisal fee to registered appraiser Joe Fisher in the amount of $500 to research and advise what will be the range.
We have a grammatical error there.
Yes. What will be the estimate of fair market appraisal to the Gary Schwartz on-road property? This goes to something we're going to discuss a little later also, because 3 years ago, the voters approved the referendum for a bond issue. It was not the bond issue, the referendum to actually have a bond issue up to $2 million for the purchase and also purchase of easements on property that either was in the streams that go through the township or in the areas around them. And it passed by about 75%. Everybody was for it. It's been a long time trying to figure out what properties exactly we'd like to put into this. And we have a committee that's been working on it and has diligently found a group of properties. But what it comes down to is this: we'd like to preserve and own, where we could, the stream courses of Marshall's Creek and Sambo Creek. That's where our focus has been. The Gary Schwartz property is one big area. It includes some of the creek, and also some wonderful land that we'd love to leave as open space. But what we're trying to do is, instead of invoking this bond issue, is to try to see if there are ways that we can do some of this, either through grants or through donations. And with this particular property, the question really is, what's it worth? We can only pay what's called the fair market appraisal price. By hiring an appraiser and having him just give us a ballpark figure for this low fee, what we can do is give it to Gary Schwartz and say, look, this is about what we can pay. If you think you would like to sell some of it or all of it to us, then we can apply for a grant to buy it. But if it's too low for you and you want to withhold it, he'll know that too. Right now, we don't know anything, and that's why we want to make this sort of ballpark appraisal. So I'll make a motion to approve. Which one is it here? Appraisal fee of $500 to register appraisal Joe Fisher to give us an advice on a area where the fair market appraisal might fall for the Gary Schwartz Fawn Road Farm property. I have a second?
Yeah, I'll vote, second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We voted aye on aye.
Aye on aye, yes.
Yeah.
Aye. Okay. Discuss official action. Notice of appeal, curative amendment, as per Attorney Ron Karasak, email dated October 27th, 2020, with the attachment of the email dated November 5th, 2020. Ron, would you like to fill us into that?
Well, I just sent another email. That's one of the reasons I was a little late.
I saw that.
I sent one to Ferrari's, the secretary, saying, like, I don't have confirmation that the township was ever served with this notice of appeal. What Julia got was a briefing schedule, which is like step 2. Like, once the notice of appeal is filed, the judge looks at it and says, okay, you file your brief this day, you file your brief that day. Am I missing something? I told her, like, if we haven't been served, we haven't been served yet.
I mean, I've
Orders
seen...
are being entered without us even, being properly served.
I'm aware of it only because you mentioned it in an email, and I wrote you saying, where is it? I don't know what this is.
What is this?
And you sent me a copy of what Attorney Ferrari had sent you. I've never seen anything else.
I spoke with Lynn, and she has not received anything through the front window.
Okay.
Nobody in the office knew what was going on, so.
Now, I know that the township, the county is behind in filing things. Like, I filed a document on October 1st, and I just and it's all through email. You can't go physically and give them anything. And I got a copy on October 27th. But even so, we're still well beyond that, so. I don't know if I should file an answer to the notice of which we were not served yet or not. I don't know. So let me see what response I get from Ferrari's. Now, it was Ferrari's secretary, but I copied him on it, et cetera. Let's see what they have to say. Unless they tell me, the rule was changed, and as long as we serve you, Karasak, that's enough. I don't think it is, though, because I'm not the township. I'm just an appointed official. Maybe serving Julia or serving Lynn, but not me. I don't know where that goes, but we'll see. So that's what that's on for. It's just to, I don't want to lose track of it, to make sure that we know what we're doing there with that.
All right, so there's really nothing for us to do.
Nothing
We all know about this. It's just that you've never received official service.
So there's no action you need to take on this, and unless something else comes up, I think you could remove it from future agenda at this time anyway.
Okay, let's move on here. Motion to hire a registered appraiser at a cost of $1,000 or less.
You got K yet? You got K, we missed K.
It's the Trapasso conditional use.
How could I miss that? Vincent Trapasso, we're sorry. K is motion to approve the findings of facts, conclusions of law, and decision in the Trapasso conditional use application self-storage units in a floodplain.
So moved.
Okay, I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Okay, now we'll move on to the registered appraiser. Motion to hire a registered appraiser at a cost of $1,000 or less to complete a fair market appraisal of the property located at 529 Seven Bridges Road, owned by DLP, as a first step in acquisition by eminent domain. I think this takes some explanation too. Ron has tried, and I have tried, to locate some principles of DLP, which I think has probably got a real estate trust, I didn't even know, to own this building. We have a problem in that there are 28 residents on Green Mountain Drive that are adjacent to this property. They're only served by a bridge that is rapidly failing, have to be fixed in some manner, but there's no emergency exit or entrance to their properties, and especially when it comes to emergency services, there's no way to get there except over this bridge, which we don't know, if, even at this point, will hold the weight of a fire truck. So what we feel we must do is to build an alternate road going in to this property. The road would use the road cut of this office building that is owned by, DLP. It would not affect their building. It would take a few of their parking spaces, but we would also be responsible for all of this because it would be a township road.
There's like 29 people over there.
28
people.
We'd like to find some way to do this without having to go to point of eminent domain to acquire it, but we can't get hold of them. So what we're really doing here is, if we do the appraisal, we'll know what it's worth. If we start by filing for eminent domain, hopefully somebody will contact us. And when they do, I'm hoping that we can resolve this and that there's a deal to be made. So this is really just the first salvo in trying to get a response.
And I would say, Mr. Chair, that let's assume that we get the appraisal in and it looks like it's something that the township can live with. Before the township spends the time and money in actually preparing an eminent domain plan, I would send the report to, again, that attorney with whom I have been dealing with and say, now, I haven't heard from you.
Right.
I understand you may not want to do anything, but here's a report. If I don't hear back from you, this is what we're going to use for eminent domain.
That's why we did
Maybe that may get it going.
We did it. We've done this report. It's our first step, right?
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion to approve that $1,000 and start a fair market appraisal.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So, resolution passed. Okay, now we're on to M, am I right there? LM? Okay.
Yeah.
Motion to adopt resolution number 457 and authorize the chairman to sign the letter regarding DCED LSA grant application for vision loss sculpture trail within Wellness Park. We have been for the past 2 years.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah.
That's a mouthful.
Yes, it is. We have been for the last 2 years building out parts of Waterfront Park in conjunction with Lehigh Valley Health Network Pocono to build a unique part of the park that would be something accessible to children, seniors, people with disabilities, people undergoing rehabilitation in some of the programs of the hospital, and it will be someplace where there's something for everybody, and everybody is mixed in a way where there's no discrimination based on disability. If there's a play area that is in use, it can be in use by anyone, and the equipment will be there where anybody is able to utilize it, no matter what their physical condition is. So anyway, one of the things we're doing here is what we call the vision loss trail, which is for anybody, but especially for people who have vision loss, which means people who are blind. I won't go into the details of it, but it's phase 4 of what we're trying to do. We were applying to the DCED for an LSA grant on this, which has to be in by the end of the month. So this is only to authorize the chairman to sign the letter saying that we are officially submitting the grant application.
And to adopt Resolution 457.
Yes, that's the resolution, to adopt. We're really signing the authorization for it. I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 457.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Earlier I mentioned.
Robert, can you back up and, you didn't authorize the chairman to sign the letter.
All right. Let me say, motion to adopt Resolution 457 and authorize the chairman to sign the letter regarding DCED LSA grant application for the vision loss sculpture trail within Wellness Park.
I'll second the amended motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. And discussion of how to proceed with acquisition of water course and stream bank under voter-approved authorization for bond. This goes back to what I mentioned before, which is the bond that was authorized for clean water and open space. What we're trying to do is to acquire as much of this area as we can without triggering the bond, because a bond is something where there's interest, and the interest has to be paid, and we're trying to avoid having the taxpayers paying more for a bond that we'd have to get for this. And my feeling is that a lot of this land and water that we want to acquire probably is of no value to the people that have it. It's either too near a stream or in a stream for it ever to be built on. And it might look nice, but it would look just as nice if the township either had an easement in perpetuity on it or owned it. What we can do with these people is say, if we have a ballpark area for, let's say, the fair market appraisal, which is all we can pay, we can say, look, if you want to donate it to us, you can take a tax deduction based on something with the figure we have or above that, whatever you can find. Or if you want an easement, this is what it's worth. But what we're trying to do is find a way to do this in an efficient and reasonable fashion where it's not going to cost a lot of money, and we could acquire as much of these streams and stream banks as people will give us. What we need for that is new sort of ballpark fair market appraisals, and be able to move forward with John Tressler and you have been discussing this, of how much legal work it will require for each one, whether we would have to do a subdivision and land use plan, or we could get away without that. So I'm just bringing this up now because I don't think there's anything to say as far as a motion tonight, but it's an area that we've got to look into, and if we can figure out what each of these properties could cost us, it may be something that we can just do ourselves or do with some small grants. One of the differences, just to let me point out, between this and what I mentioned earlier with the Gary Swartz farm is Gary Swartz has over 200 acres. Whatever it costs, it'll probably be in the hundreds, thousands of dollars at least. And when you get up to those figures, you can apply for a DCED or DCNR grant for land acquisition. But small things like land that is adjacent to somebody's house, it is in the stream where they're paying taxes on it and they get no value out of it, the price worth may be so little that we can't apply for grants. There are no grants that small. So just part of the equation we've got to figure out of how we do this, what it's going to cost, how many we can do, and whether we can acquire this piecemeal without having the voters have to pay the interest on a bond.
Right, it allows us to really acquire a lot in perpetuity without shelling out a lot of money when we're already making sizable investments in our parks.
Exactly.
And particularly, to preserve the bond for the big, kahuna, like something like Mr. Schwartz's property.
Right. And I think between Jacob and I, we have the same viewpoint of preserving open space. And there are very few parcels in the township that are available like this, like the Schwartz Farm. There are real beautiful areas of open space. So it's absolutely right. When it comes to the big spaces, that's when we should look towards the big money. But for this, I think we can do a lot just by going to people and saying, look, take the tax deduction. Don't pay the taxes on property you can't use. Just give it back to us. So let's move on. That's just a discussion. The next thing, we're getting there. I don't mean, we're on O. So.
Right.
Discussion of amending definition of requirements for mixed-use development projects that include housing within the ED enterprise zone. Last summer, we passed ED enterprise zone, which took in all of our commercial zones and made them one big zone that has a much greater latitude for people developing here. One of the questions, and again, it's just a discussion, is that part of what is allowed in that zone is what we call mixed use. Let's say mixed use is two uses. If it's housing and, let's say, commercial use, or if it's housing and medical uses, the real question is, well, how much of each does it have to be? We never really have defined that, and yet I think what we're trying to avoid in some ways is a developer coming in saying, okay, I'm going to build 40 housing units and I'll put a little convenience store in front of it and call it mixed use. I don't think we've really defined it, and I'm not sure where we go from here, whether it's percentages or what, or if in some areas we want to give a conditional use because, let's say the development is in an area where it's in our ED zone, but it's kind of backing up to areas that are residential or surrounded by them. We just need to think this through, and we're now considering an amendment to the ED zone, which will take in many of these questions. This is only one question, but I only bring it up because I think it's something we should get into.
Absolutely. We want to be clear, we want to meet our goals, have the letter be sound so there isn't a question.
Now, I know, Mr. Chair, when I was looking at the amendments last week, a letter came, I believe, from attorney for the cost trust or maybe another individual.
Right.
He was recommending that there be a change to definition of the mixed use versus the mixed project, et cetera. So I have incorporated those changes into the amendment to the ED zone, but I'm not quite sure if they get us home as to what you're saying. I don't recall them having like percentages.
Well,
it just says the mixed use is, retail on the bottom and you have apartments up top. And it doesn't really give percentages, it doesn't give numbers, I don't think.
Well, it may not be percentages, it may be how the footprint is being divided, I don't know, but it seems like what we want is we want real mixed use. We don't want fake mixed use. And at the same time, we have one proposal that is moving along, which is mainly residential, but it's in an area where that seems to be probably more in keeping with what's around it. Maybe we do that as a conditional use. I'm just not sure. We're trying to avoid conditional uses by making this an amendment where it catches everything, but I leave it open. I don't know. I don't know how other towns have dealt with it. That may be what we should be looking into. Anyway.
Sounds like a good idea. Sounds like a good idea to see how others have dealt with it. Because mixed use is becoming a much more prominent now, more than ever.
And as I brought up earlier, we also have an incentivized zone. I don't understand it.
The difference between that and mixed use development option.
I think only Doug Olmsted understands what it is.
They both have a very similar read, but I think one of them has some acreage requirements, but the other does not, and most of it reads the same.
I was good until I got the chair's email a few days ago talking about the incentivized zone. I said, I don't think I understand what's going on now anymore.
Well, and my feeling is this. If we don't understand it, how is somebody who is a developer who wants to build something going to understand it? There may be a difference, but it should be clearer.
Right, and we don't want to produce an unnecessary lag, at this point, one of the saving graces in terms of revenue for Smithfield is the amount of people that want to live here and operate businesses here. So they're buying, lots and lots of real estate. So as people move forward with projects, particularly because there's vacant parcels, in the hundreds and hundreds of acres in the township, it'd be great to have a plan that we can say yes or no, or here are caveats for those projects, instead of saying, okay, we have this plan and there's a 90-day deadline. Now we need to pass an amendment to make sure that we can, allow this type of use, generally speaking, in the area.
Well, and that brings up another thing. We are planning an amendment of the amendment. I'd like to see us do that before the end of the year so we can answer a lot of these questions. It's not going to be perfect, but we've been building up a list of questions about this. We can answer in that. All right, let's move on here. P, the last one. I put this in because last year we gave a donation to the Smithfield, the Rotary Club of the Smithfields, in their annual tree lighting ceremony with Lehigh Valley Health Network Cancer Center. This year, the tree lighting is going to be virtual. There's no donation book or anything, and I'd like us to give them a donation. They are the Smithfields Rotary.
Right.
I made a mistake here. I put 100, but it's really, we gave them 125 last year. I'd like to raise it to that. So if there's...
Yeah, if you want to make that motion.
All right.
Go ahead.
125?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
I'll make a motion to approve a $125 donation to Rotary Club of the Smithfields towards the tree lighting ceremony with LVHN Pocono that will virtually take place at the Hughes Cancer Center.
I'll happily second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
I have two other things, Mr. Chair. And I know that, we're already at the Greek alphabet letters, but they're easy, okay?
Okay.
First one is I had sent on Friday of last week the revised settlement agreement and release in the FNCB Bank lawsuit. The release that we are all signing, the FNCB Bank, the township, the Eagle Ridge Property Association. So we need to have this signed so I can get it back to the court because the deadline to settle is this Friday.
Can we sign it?
Sign it.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll sign it. And?
And then the second thing is we're going to have to get a date now for the public hearing on the conditional use in the Water Gap landowner curative amendment. I had forgotten that we had received the review by the Monroe County Planning Commission. I think it was maybe around October 15 or something, and I had done an email last week. I forgot to bring it with me. And basically I had said, I'm counting the 60 days from that date. got an email from Wolf today saying he agrees with that, but we need to pick a date for that hearing.
Let's pick a date. How about tomorrow?
Well, is this,
We can advertise a little bit, but.
is this the amendment, right?
Right, this is the conditional use hearing on your amendment, the amendment that you guys revised.
Oh, okay.
That you adopted their landowner curative amendment.
Right, so I'm asking, so this is a conditional use hearing, or is it the adoption of
No,
the
it's a
ordinance?
conditional use hearing. You adopted that ordinance already.
Right,
Under the ordinance, they have to proceed by way of conditional use.
right.
This is the conditional use hearing.
Okay.
Let's do it on Thanksgiving.
Let's,
Because again, I'm sure there'll be a lot of people coming to this.
That's why I say, if we do it on Thanksgiving, maybe we'll get less of a crowd.
I'm sure this will go really well in public, so I'm going to say that we want to maximize public inclusion, and therefore, I don't know, when is November 24th too close to Thanksgiving, or should we wait till the following, we can do it, on a Wednesday?
I would probably jump over, because I don't know if I can get the advertising in. I gotta do it once a week.
2 successive weeks,
For
right?
2 successive weeks, and the last ad can't be any earlier or any later than 7 days before.
Oh, okay, makes sense.
So,
Ron, I might have missed that email. When is the 60-day cutoff for the conditional?
I have to look again. I don't remember, kiddo, but I'll check when I get back.
So, when is Thanksgiving? The 26th, right?
Yes.
Well, say it won't, do perhaps a special meeting on December 1st, or even wait till the 8th?
Doesn't matter.
The 8th would be our regular meeting for
What
Board of
about the
Supervisors.
2nd? Can we do it on our Wednesday work session?
Second?
I suppose so. That hasn't, any of the original hearings were done on Wednesdays at 4, right?
If I can step in, I found the email.
Okay.
I think it,
Conditional use expires January 9th of 2021.
Okay.
I think it's easier for people to come in the afternoon. I
Yeah,
think.
it could be. So do you want to do December 2nd?
Okay with me, what do you think?
I have no problem that day.
Julia, it's all right with you?
Is that work session time?
Yes, it is. I'll move that we schedule the conditional use hearing for, December 2nd at 4 p.m.
And it will be my guess, just like they did the last time when we scheduled the conditional use, on the other amendment is that they'll file a motion for a stay.
Okay.
Do what?
That they'll file a motion for a stay. The citizens will file a motion to stay this.
And would,
Just like they did the last time.
would Judge
Wait,
Zulu,
haven't they already filed that?
No, all they did was file an appeal.
so if they ask for a stay, do you have to
statement.
have an emergency hearing, say via phone, or can Judge Zulik just toss it?
Well, I think the judge
Does he
has
have to
gotta
have a
have
hearing?
The judge has to have a hearing. I don't think he can just do it without a hearing, but it might just be a telephone argument as
Right.
you were involved in that, that one time. That would be my guess, but let's get it scheduled, so that
Right.
if we have some speed bumps, thank you, Julia, for checking, we've got some drag time. Got all the way to the first week in January, if we have some
Right.
speed bumps for
All
some
right,
reason.
so it's December 2nd then, right?
Yeah, that's
all
what I'm
right.
gonna advertise.
There's a motion on the floor, I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
And I'll also move that we sign the FNCB verification release.
Okay. I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Okay, let's move on to bills to be paid. General fund is $52,768.96. Highway fund is $7,198.51 for a total of $59,967.47.
I'll make a motion that we pay the bills.
Second that, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. All right, any public comments?
I don't see any. Mr. Chair, you did a heck of a job with this agenda. I mean, an hour and 10 minutes.
Not bad, huh?
That's not bad.
I'll move we adjourn at, 8:10 p.m.
I'll second that. Okay. Okay, we're adjourned.
Oh, yeah, you wanna call the? Aye. Okay, I'm gonna turn this off now.